Hi, my name is Michael Richter. I'm the branch manager at the Westwood Library. I have been with the CHPL system for 15 years now. Spent a lot of time at Groesbeck. I've been downtown in Teen Spot, been at Price Hill, so I've been all over the map over the last 15 years. So I started with the library when I was 16. I got my first job and it was in fast food. Couldn't stand it. And it was actually my dad that came home from the library one day and said they have an opening for a branch shelver position. So that started me all the way back in 2006. Worked through the library up through my undergrad and all that. Actually got my degree and left for a while and wasn't really enjoying what I was doing that much. Came back and had a chat with my old manager who was like, kind of persuaded me down the path, like you should really think about getting your MLS. And coming back to the library, and I'd already had quite a few years in by that point, and one thing led to another. Finished that up, and here I still am today after all these years. So like I said, I started at the Groesbeck Library as a shelver in 2006, and I shelved for 2 years there. Came back as a part-time LSA at the time, and was there throughout my undergrad at UC. Eventually moved up to full-time LCA, and then I had left Groesbeck, and that's when I kind of left out of the system for a while, and I was doing something kind of healthcare insurance related. And then when I came back, I was here downtown at the main library in Teen Spot and CLC working with the youth. I became a floater after that, so I was traveling around and was working at a different branch almost every day of the week. So I think at this point, there's really only 2 branches left in our whole system that I have not worked at some point or another. Floated, had a brief stint at Madeira, and then was the first branch team lead position at Price Hill. And from Price Hill, that's when I became the manager of the Westwood Library. And I've been with Westwood now about a year and a half. I started in September of last year, and we have a big after school crowd at Westwood. So the way I think of it is we're coming up on the end of the second school year. Is pretty much how my time there is measured, because we see a lot of kids after school, and that takes up a lot of our time and resources there. So I feel like I know everyone, even if I don't really know them. But when I show up to places, I'm like, I know you. You know what I mean? Just from seeing messages and stuff like that. So it's cool to have been around for that long and kind of have for me, the community feel everywhere, in our system, is definitely there. It's been quite a journey. I will say that the biggest kind of influence and one of the biggest factors in me ending up going down the path of ending up in the libraries was definitely Ned Hegerbrem, who's the manager at Groesbeck. So he was my manager here for my first 10 years. Definitely built up a relationship to him where even when I had left, he was someone I kind of went to for advice. And that was the person I kind of came back to and talked to and was like, hey, I just took all this time getting this degree, left the library and went and, kind of can't stand what I'm doing now. And he was kind of the person who I had the heart to heart with that was like, nobody's going to give you a pat on the back for sticking it out with something that you don't like doing every day. And he was kind of like, you've put in a lot of time here. I think you're really good at it. And he was definitely a big influence in getting me along the path. So I have to give a shout out to him for kind of being the driving force there. And I know a lot of us, our library story starts with the shelving thing, and then one thing led to another. And here we are. I know that's a very common theme with our people who've been in the system for a while. It's definitely true of me too. I think of some cool stories to tell. It's been one of my coolest experiences here, definitely the timing of me getting hired at Price Hill was about a month before the reopening of that huge remodeling project. So that was one of my most exciting times being here over all the years I've been here. Is definitely working out of the DC, having all the meetings, planning the new building, the layout of everything, the collection, and being part of that reopening process, having all the council people come in, cutting the ribbon, all that kind of stuff, is definitely something I look back on fondly. And because we got such a bigger staff at the time too, it was the first time I've been a part of the hiring process and just building kind of your own staff from the ground up. So I really look back fondly on my time at Price Hill. And Westwood has been great too. My first experience as a branch manager, like I said, a lot of interactions with the kids. So which presents both a really fun atmosphere and also a challenging one. Working with staff, getting everybody on board with how we're handling that situation and making relationships with all these kids. And like I always tell my staff, we're a very tech heavy branch too. And I think sometimes we take for granted some of the work we do here at the library because it becomes so commonplace. So when things start to get a little frustrating, we always have talks where we remind each other some of the relationships we've built up with the kids and the fact that they come in and, we might be the most positive interaction that they have all day. And the same thing with our people coming in to use the computers. I think we get so used to doing resumes and job application help that then it's done and you go back up to the desk and you're like, all right, knock that out. Not even really taking the time to process like that you just helped somebody apply for a job who was like, trying to make ends meet and do all this stuff. So Westwood has really opened up my eyes to kind of like taking a step back and appreciating everything that we do and trying to not let it get to the point where it just is so commonplace that you don't take time for the small moments and the little victories and all that kind of stuff. This came up during our PDPs recently. This was one of the things, it's like, it seems so obvious, but once you start to do it like day after day and people kind of get locked in and things get like frustrating, tech help can be frustrating with people. Sometimes you got to take the step back and realize like how big what we're actually doing is, even if it doesn't seem like it in the moment. So there's always a time to like take a breath here. Nobody's getting wheeled in for heart surgery, but at the same time, we're doing a lot of very important things. It really does. It is a nice balance to have for sure. I think the funniest thing about that is how many things now, if they happen to me, like would not faze me at all. And they're the kind of things where if you were to tell somebody who hasn't worked here before about them, it would blow their mind. And for me, it would just be like everyday business, things you find in the book drop. Some days you're just like, excuse me, how did this end up here? All kinds of little stuff like that. I think again for the most memorable stuff with customers, I would kind of go back to like honestly my time down here at like Teen Spot too with the youth, just because that's something that I am like pretty passionate about. Like I said, working at some branches where like you get to know the kids well enough to know that home life might not be great, school might not be their forte or something that brings them a lot of joy. So I think having like fostering, kind of those relationships and having like heart to hearts with them and kind of getting it to the point where, and especially with the teen crowd, there's usually an exterior that you kind of have to break through over the course of a couple months. It's not something that is a day one thing, but when they get to the point where they're comfortable enough to come and like ask for advice about certain things, it's like super rewarding. And that's one thing that kind of keeps me going in all my years of working in like after school centric branches, or just those interactions. So this is it's a funny one for me because, hey, like I said, I started when I was 16. So the library has made up like almost all of my work history to this point. My time from a teenager into like my 30s. I met my now wife working at the library. So we worked together down here in Teen Spot at the time. So it's definitely shaped my personal life in a great degree. And it's just like, it's the place where I've grown up. It's funny to think that like, all my like life, moments and experiences to this point, like in some way or another, I can like tie to where I was in my library journey at that point. It's still something that I just recall all the time. I'll like think back to things and I'll be like, oh yeah, that had to be like 2010 because at that time I was working in this position at this branch. I mean, this has been my working career. And I've met a lot of close friends here over the years, a lot of people that I'm in touch with every day. So, outside of work, here at work, it's really like, it's shaped me a lot over the last 15 years.